All right. Welcome everyone to our third Rebuilding Our Local Economy webinar event. These webinar series and conversations are part of a year-long webinar series broken up into 4 quarters of programming. Through these spaces and these conversations, People First Economy is seeking to provide technical support and resources to our member businesses as we're continuing to come out of the pandemic. So today's format's a little bit different than some of our previous conversations. We're hosting an interactive conversation to learn more about Grand Rapids Opportunities for Women and People First Economy, 2 organizations that offer support to our small businesses across West Michigan. So we're going to jump into some introductions here. My name is Kathleen Rourke, and I'm the Engagement Director for People First Economy. What I do on our team is just support businesses who are participating in our program areas, connecting into some of our existing campaigns, helping local individuals and families build habits around supporting locally owned businesses and engaging businesses in connecting with each other. I'll pass it over to Emmanuel if you want to introduce yourself.
Everyone, my name's Emmanuel Ibarra. I'm the Impact Coordinator for People First Economy. I work primarily on the Good for Michigan side. I help provide technical assistance to businesses going through our assessments, helping them get a better idea of what their impacts are as a business and connecting them to the many resources that we have to help make or implement some changes within their business to have positive impacts. And I'll pass it off to Rosie.
Thanks, Emmanuel. Hi, my name is Rosie Orkanyan, and I'm the Program and Volunteer Coordinator here at GROW. And I would say as long as that title is, that kind of includes all of the responsibilities that fall under my direction here, from anything as far as our volunteer connections, which we'll talk a little bit more about, and the resources that we offer, but also developing new programs, new educational opportunities and resources, all of that education piece of it, and just things to support the entrepreneur and small business owners. That's really where I live here at GROW. So before we really get too far into it, I just wanted to ask just a conversation to start off with, and that People First Economy does amazing work. And so I'm wondering if the 2 of you could just talk a little bit more about what do you do and share a bit more about the organization.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when folks look at our organization, they've historically been more familiar with some of our language around our local first programming and the initiatives that we hold there. But our People First Economy brand is the umbrella organizationally that holds some of our programs. Underneath our organization, we believe that successful and vibrant communities thrive when we put people first. That's where that language comes from. And for us, that means that we build this constellation of locally owned businesses and companies that do good business and are striving to do good business through comprehensive, sustainable business development, alongside missional-driven nonprofits to really build a robust, resilient local economy or place-based economy. So our kind of goals here organizationally are to create a space that is thriving and equitable and sustainable and just diverse within our own sense of place. So that's a bit about what we do. We'd love to go into some more detail about our kind of programmatic pieces. But before we kind of dive into the nitty-gritty specifics, Rosie, could you help us get an understanding too of kind of GROW's positioning, what you all are about, and the great work that you're doing there?
Yeah, absolutely. And so GROW, our main office is located in Grand Rapids, just the heart of downtown. But with that, we also have office and representation out on the lakeshore. And so our whole service area is actually 9 counties, which might come as a surprise to folks. But even though we have physical space here in Grand Rapids and out on the lakeshore, our reach is a little bit further even than that. So something really that I want to distinguish about GROW is that people may have heard we're a CDFI. So GROW is a community development financial institution. And I had to check my notes, make sure that those are the words that we use. And that's what a CDFI is. So what it is, it's a community development financial institution. What does that mean? Basically, what it means is that we are a lender. So for entrepreneurs and small businesses that might not be able to get traditional funding through a bank. Maybe they have a personal account through one of the local banks, but they're just not quite ready to get that business loan. They might not be eligible for a number of different reasons. That's when organizations like ours, CDFIs, can kind of step in and bridge that gap. It doesn't mean that entrepreneur or small business will never get a business loan from another more traditional financial institution. It just means that right now, where they're at in their business journey, not quite yet. And that's very much something we pride ourselves on, is that once you're a Grow borrower, it doesn't mean that you're forever, only going to be receiving funding from Grow. We're happy to pass people back to the larger financial institutions when they're ready. But so that's a really large piece of what we do is the funding. And that's where we see many clients come to us. And then the other piece as well is we're a women's business center. And what that means is that we're able to offer technical assistance, kind of like what Emmanuel said earlier, but really hands-on mentoring, counseling, one-on-one business mentoring opportunities, as well as webinars. And then also we have a really strong volunteer pool, and I don't want to go too far into it. I know we're going to get a little bit more into the details. So I've probably already said too much, but I think that kind of gives a really nice picture of we're partially that CDFI, but we also have the resources on the other side too.
Yeah, that's great.
Is it exclusive to women, or is it open to everyone?
Sure. That's a really great question. And I think, even in our name, Grand Rapids Opportunities for Women, there can be a little bit of confusion, but no, our resources are available to all genders. There are pieces, the Women's Business Center, there are pieces that are specifically targeted, specifically focused for women entrepreneurs, but at large, specifically the lending piece of it, open to anyone, as well as the business resources. Thanks for asking that.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for breaking that down. I think both in the sense of organization holding kind of a multitude of ways to support folks coming through, but also the jargony pieces around terms that folks hear sometimes and don't exactly know what it means to engage in some of that, like CDFI. I think that is so great and human also to need to reference notes for that, because I do every time I need to explain it as well.
Yes.
So that's awesome. And I think it'd be great to dig deeper into some of those specific kind of components that you had mentioned. So could you share a little bit more about what some of the available resources are in the Women's Center and how folks get involved on the Lundy side?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll share first that the best way to get involved, the first step, no matter where you're at kind of on your journey as an entrepreneur, is our website. So growbusiness.org is going to be the very best way. We have new client inquiry forms on there. We also have a variety of different ways to get in touch with us. Social media is also a really good way. We are active on there. We're more and more active every day, I think, trying to just gain a presence there as well. And then I think also as time allows and as our world continues to open up, I think just out in the community. That's really, I think, my number one thing is just to be out in the community. And I think really being where entrepreneurs are and being at those conversations and at those events, I think is really a great opportunity just to network and get to know our organization and also get to know the small businesses out in the community. So tell me, Kathleen, a little bit before we go on to the next one. So for our small businesses and the entrepreneurs that might be familiar more with Grow, how would they get in touch with People First Economy and what would those steps look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So People First Economy, we also have a website space that you can come check out, peopleFirstEconomy.org. We definitely encourage you or would encourage businesses to come to that space to get a sense of who we are organizationally and to access a little bit more information about both our Local First and Good for Michigan programming. And so that's a great space to join us and connect and learn a little bit more about our team and our work. As well, Rose will just tag on those spaces that you mentioned are also great spaces to connect with us. We are also active on social media, ever more so, of course, in this digital virtual world. So you can come check that out. We are sharing a lot of great information around our sustainability initiatives through our Good for Michigan platforms. And then, of course, around habit building in the localism kind of sphere on the Local First West Michigan channel. So encourage people to check that out. And I think for us too, again, folks might be more familiar with our Local First brand or Local First programming. And so two kind of great ways to get, to become a part of our People First Economy Network or to get engaged in the work where we're putting people first in our small local place-based economies are through our two different program areas. So we'd love to kind of give a little brief overview of some of those spaces. So the Local First program that folks might be more aware of, and again, you can check out peoplefirsteconomy.org to find our programs or go directly to our program websites. So you could also go to localfirst.com to get more information about Local First. But Local First West Michigan is kind of the program entity that is 8 counties wide. So in Grand Rapids, and then all the counties that touch Grand Rapids fall underneath our Local First membership programming. But this is the membership side in which we're supporting locally owned businesses. So a great deal of our work here is around building local wealth and social capital and really connecting our local businesses to the community and to each other. So through this space, we offer a number of things. We talk a lot about the whys behind localism, and I'd be happy to go into detail about that if folks would want some more detail. But we also offer exclusive member benefits. So one of the great pieces that we can do in this particular program area is amplify what our businesses are already doing in our community to help consumers, families, individuals build local habits around that. And then secondarily, or likewise, I should say, help our businesses connect to each other. Another key part of the habit building in our community is continuing to encourage collaborations between our businesses and to localize those supply chains so that we are mirroring those kind of pieces, both with our consumer bases, but also between business owners. So that's kind of in a nutshell what we're doing here in the Local First program. And we have a number of ways in which we kind of accomplish that through our member benefits. But also want to toss it over to Emmanuel. I think Emmanuel would be a great person to give more of the Good for Michigan details and share what that kind of program area is all about.
Yeah, so Good for Michigan more so focused on sustainability, more so than locality and local first perspective. Good for Michigan exists to support businesses who want to get a better understanding of what their current positive impacts are and to learn how they can have a better impact with their workforce, on the environment and the community. So Good for Michigan program has a number of resource partners across the state and of various kinds that can help with many different things. It can span from energy usage and helping to track those metrics, can go to waste reduction and waste deferment. I think that's the right word. And we have a number of other resources that we can help connect you with for any certain policies that you're looking for, hiring policies, more inclusive and responsible, ethical hiring policies or supply chain policies and whatnot. So the Good for Michigan program is here to help support businesses who want to have a better impact, essentially.
Yeah, I would just add two kind of quick things about the Good for Michigan program too. We are so pleased to be able to offer these assessment tools in the Good for Michigan program to help people measure those benefit areas or help people measure the impact that they already have and encourage them towards some next steps. Really courtesy of the MEDC, we're pleased to be able to offer that for free to businesses who are interested in getting started. And also it is a statewide initiative as well. So Emmanuel, can you share a little bit more detail around kind of some of the business areas that we're already connecting in?
Yeah, so unlike Local First West Michigan, we are statewide. So we do operate in West Michigan, but we also are active on the east side, Detroit area, Ann Arbor area, in the center of the state near Lansing. We're also expanding more into the Upper Peninsula and northern Michigan, part of the Lower Peninsula as well. So yeah, I forgot to mention that we also offer consulting services for businesses. So once they take those assessments, they can reach out to us and we can have discussions on and review those assessments with them to figure out what direction they'd like to go in, and what support they would like to receive from us, whether that's sustainability support, meaning like feedback on ideas that they have, or just resource support, so connecting them with the right resources.
Manuel, if someone is interested, I think that's a really, really valuable piece that I do want to just highlight is those assessments and then having those conversations afterward as part of the Good for Michigan program. If someone, whether it's someone who knows about Grow and is a client of ours, or just maybe someone in the community is interested in getting connected and learning more through those assessments, what would be the best first step, or maybe the first couple of steps to really getting connected?
Yeah, they could access our website at goodfor.org. You can find a tab that says Get Started, and
Okay.
where people can access the assessments for an entrepreneur starting their business. The assessments can be a really great tool to help provide a guideline for how they'd like their business to be. And for an existing business that's already been active for a while, they can use the tool to help capture their current impacts and figure out a way within their current activities to potentially make a change, or even lean into a part of their business that they are already having a positive impact on. So I would steer people to the website.
Mhm.
That would be the best way to get involved.
Great, thank you. I think that's so helpful, just to know a starting place. Where can we find this information? Where can we find more about it? So thank you. Thanks for explaining that a little bit more.
I think, as we're talking about these different pieces, it feels so clear sometimes that within organizations like ours, there are so many different opportunities to get engaged. And often people might have an idea of, oh, I kind of know what a CDFI is, or know that maybe I could use my business as a force for good, and I could look at this area of that. But the work is so expansive in so many ways, between areas that we offer, or components, or ways to get involved and engaged. And so I think in that way, each organization has some of these kind of hidden gems, or these different opportunities for folks to get some more detail, dig in a little bit deeper. Rosie, could you share what some of those hidden gems are on Grow's team, or within kind of Grow's offerings?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love this question, because I think you're spot on in the saying that it's our offerings, not only as Grow as an organization, but just kind of entrepreneurial support organizations in general. Our offerings are so broad. So kind of getting down to the nitty gritty of what do we do, and what kind of sparkles within our organization, I think is such a fun thing to talk about. And so I'm happy to do that. I think I'll kind of break it down first. As I mentioned, as a CDFI, we are a lender. But I think kind of the hidden part of that is the support that comes with it. So yes, if an entrepreneur or small business is in need of funding, Grow is happy to help. We can certainly do that, and at least walk through the application process and see what that might look like for the individual. But I think even more powerful than that is the support and the fact that as a Grow borrower, you have access to all of the resources our organization has: one-on-one mentoring, volunteer connections, all of that. So it's not just a simple, here's a check, thanks, good luck. But we really, really, truly like to follow the borrower and stay with them and provide support as we can. Of course, eventually people move on, and that's okay too. But I think that's a really special thing about our organization, that as a lender, we also do have these robust resources that we can offer. So I think that's a really, really fun gem that maybe people don't always realize. I've mentioned it a couple of times, but I'm really proud of the network of volunteers that we have. So we're fortunate that a number of community members, ranging from marketing professionals to legal professionals to folks in the financial industry that help us with cash flow projections and different financial statement assistance. We have such a great network of those folks that we are able to connect entrepreneurs. And I want to be clear that it doesn't have to just be startup entrepreneurs that might find value in these connections. It could be someone who's been in business for years and they've just have always stumbled with social media marketing or something very, very specific And we'd love to talk about that. We'd love to try to help them. And so I just want to be clear that those volunteer connections are not only for those in the startup phase, but really anywhere on the entrepreneurial spectrum or journey, whatever we want to call it. So I think that's also kind of something that's maybe not as well known, but they're free. These connections are free. It's very much dependent on availability and also the availability of the entrepreneur. We know it's not a 9-to-5 job. So we do our best to make those connections and make them timely. So I think that's kind of a really unique and fun thing that Grow has in the community. And then I think one of our newer hidden gems is that we have the Initiate platform. And so for folks that aren't familiar with that, I would absolutely encourage you to check out our website. And kind of like Emmanuel was saying, there's a tab right at the top that says Initiate, and it gives a little bit of an overview, and then there's just an inquiry form if it sounds like something that might be of value to you. But what it is, it's an online platform. So again, accessibility. We know that being a small business owner is not an office job. It's not 9-to-5. You might have free time in the middle of the night. And this platform is available for you 24/7, free of charge. We will make an account for you, and then you have access to all of those resources. The resources are kind of broken down into different sections. So depending on what the need is, there's money, marketing, management, and then there is a section specifically for startup. So again, kind of filling that full spectrum, but also with intention for the more startup people. So I think kind of trying to make sense of all the different offerings and what's going on over here at Grow, I think those would be kind of my key highlights of things that maybe are a little under the surface, but also make us pretty unique.
Yeah, that's great. I think the two big things really stand out to me there. This idea that sometimes social capital doesn't really feel accessible, but your networks are there. People want to support each other. They want to make sure that we have robust businesses that are thriving. And so yeah, access to that is huge. As well as sometimes knowing how to get started is intimidating. And so to be able to have, I think I've previously heard either you, Rosie, or someone else describe Initiate as a Google resource for businesses specifically.
Yes.
And so to be able to have such a robust place for folks to be able to come and ask questions or seek out answers for things they previously might not have been able to access is huge. That's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the best way. We say it's kind of like a virtual bookshelf. So it takes away the mystery of is this a credible resource or not? And it's just many of the questions that I think folks would normally Google or just try to kind of work through on their own. It's all in a very clean place. There's templates. There's calculators on the Initiate platform. There's videos. So depending on learning styles, and it lets you pick up and step away as much as life requires you to. So it's really certainly worth checking out.
I can see how that would be super valuable as someone who just went and was thinking about starting a business at some point. It's really complicated just creating a business plan and finding all these resources.
And it can be overwhelming. I think that's the biggest thing too, is it's just, where do you start? So that's why we're really hopeful that between our business counseling, our volunteer connections, but then also having this platform available for folks, we really hope that it does. Sure, it's intimidating. Starting a business is a very big deal, but hopefully these resources can kind of ease that overwhelm. So I'll go ahead. I'll ask you guys. I think I made it pretty clear as far as, when would someone even connect with Grow? When would be the right time? And I think it's clear that, in our opinion, it's kind of any time. Whether you have an idea for a business, or you've been in business, or you're just ready to launch but need a little bit more capital, or you need a little bit more push. That's kind of where we're at with Grow. There's really no right time, as long as it's the time that you email us. And so I think I would just like to know, and I think a lot of the folks that we work with are curious, when's the best time for People First Economy? Is it when you're established? Tell us, what's the phase?
Absolutely. I think, before I kind of jump into that, want to highlight a few of those maybe hidden pieces on our kind of end as well, and then jump into how folks get engaged in
Yeah.
some of those. But yeah, and I wouldn't say our approach is all that different. There are a lot of great opportunities along the stages to get involved with Fuel First Economy as well. But a few things that I just wanted to highlight underneath our network that I think folks really enjoy and might not often lean on us for support or think about us in that lens of support with. Are, certainly we have networking opportunities, and networking can be its own source of intimidation too, coming up, knowing what to say, how to connect, when to join conversations. We host a coffee hour series that is newer to our local first programming than some of our pre-existing membership mixers or other components or ways that folks can get engaged. And that's a really great place if people are intimidated by coming out to networking events or not exactly sure how to get engaged. It is a casual 1 hour, come grab a cup of coffee, meet one new person kind of event where folks can come. And so that is the second Friday of every month from 9:30 to 10:30. And it is an open kind of community space. We certainly encourage our members to come out, but if you're interested in getting to know us, getting a sense of who we are as a team, that's a great space to just come and connect. So I would throw that to folks. It's something that we've newly started, and of course then newly started in the pandemic. So a virtual event is different than being in person. You're back in person with those. And so I want to share that opportunity. And I think another piece that folks know about us, but might not know kind of some of the pieces inside of this, are some of our campaigns that we host throughout the year. So we certainly encourage people to have local habits and shift their spending around some key times, like the holidays, or we have a 4th of July campaign called Independence Week. Alongside that, we offer our businesses some social media support. So we're encouraging people to get in touch with our social media, but as well, we have media toolkits. So people don't have the marketing time, capacity. We want to share different ways that they can be involved and aligned with some of these habit building campaigns that we have that direct consumers, families, businesses back to their businesses. And so that's something I think folks don't know a lot about us in that realm, but that we do offer alongside our campaigns. And I think as a part of that too, that resource offerings alongside our campaign are important to us. We have an upcoming Move Your Money campaign in September and an Eat Local campaign in October that's going to be coming out. And alongside both of those, we typically offer some type of either connection point or webinar timeframe in which we can help people directly connect to resources around that campaign. So for our Eat Local movement, we usually will help, or we will this year be helping businesses receive some access to some really kind of key lenders, supports, things like that inside the local food system. And so when we host some public facing content, we are also encouraging our businesses to get involved in some resources behind the scene to advance what they're doing. And we kind of jokingly in our team call it leveling up, like different ways that businesses can level up with inside this kind of campaign and work. I know we have a few hidden gems too on the Good for Michigan side as well. Emmanuel, are there pieces that stick out to you? And then Rosie, we can jump into how to get in touch with us or engage with us.
Yeah, for the Good Force side, I'd say one hidden gem might be overlooked because it's not so hidden. I'd say like the consultation services are a big part of the program. It's kind of hard to do that work alone, especially if you're going into it blind or you haven't been encountered with this kind of language before, and having someone there to answer any questions that you have or to help walk you through the assessment and the tools that we have, and even just to connect you with the resources afterwards, after you found out your impacts and the direction you want to go into. I think that is hugely valuable to people, and I just want to highlight that because I think that is like a really big part of the program, and one of the big value adds to a business if they were to come into our program and participate. The second part is also tied to that, which is the assessments themselves and who created them. They were created by B Lab, which was the creator of this movement of business practices that urges businesses to use their organization as a force for good. And so they created an assessment that essentially has a baseline of that creates a baseline of best practices for any business. There's 72 different tracks within the assessments that we offer. And so the assessments will cater itself to whatever business and business type goes and takes the assessment. And so all those best practices are being used across the globe and across the nation. So businesses here in Michigan can have access to those free of charge. I would say that would be the second biggest hidden gem of the Good Forward program. In terms of when it would be best for a business to participate in the program, I would say it does take some time to sit down and to think about what your business is doing and reflect. So it's any time's a good time, preferably if you have a downtime in your year or in a certain season. I would urge you to take the time to set aside an hour or two just to go through the assessments. But other than that, the lift isn't so much. So anytime's a good time, but if you have some downtime throughout the year, it's probably a really good time to take advantage of the Good Forward program and the services we offer.
Absolutely. And as far as like the stage of your business to get involved or engaged, I think folks through the Good for Michigan program who have come through, there are usually a few different core stages alongside that. Some are established and they're ready to measure what they're already doing. Some are just starting and they're ready to put a base layer or foundation around that. And so fill out the assessment tools through that. Others might be aspiring B Corps and they want to come through because maybe they're not quite eligible. You need to be at least 3 years old as a business to become a B Corp. And so going through the assessment tools and staying engaged with this is another great way in which folks can prepare for that level of certification if they're interested in doing that. But it's also not B Corp or bust, right? Like you don't need to be a B Corp or aspire to be a B Corp to be a part of this programming. It can lend you toward that pathway. And it can also help you measure what you're currently doing with those next steps. So I would add that as far as some of the stages for getting engaged. And on the local first program side, businesses who might want to engage with us, again, any time of the year, we would love to connect with you. We're always accessible and open to share some of these resources, help folks get engaged in membership. But as far as the stage of business, we are a ripe space for businesses who either are already open as a business or just becoming or just opening up as a business to help amplify what folks are doing inside the community. We can help connect to resources for the startup phases, for helping get all of that. I mean, Grow, of course, would be a great landing space for all of that. The Local First program is ready for a business that is established and ready to share out what they want to do within the community. That is the best time to get engaged and to dive into the different membership benefits that we have underneath our organization. Rosie, what about on Grow's side? What does it look like for someone to engage? I know you mentioned anytime, anywhere, day or night, let's get involved, but how can someone join? What does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. And yes, I stand by my anytime, at any phase. I think that's really the organization that we want to be. And I think the other thing too, and I think this kind of will go into a different conversation. So I just want to put it out there, but I think the fact that Grow as an organization, we know we don't have all the answers. We know we don't have it all. We are not going to be able to answer every single question that every entrepreneur and small business owner has. So I think, we'll continue down that conversation a little bit later, but I think just knowing that we want to be a place where folks can come to us if they have questions, if they're interested in starting a business, if they have a business and are looking to either expand it or maybe even potentially sell it, depending on where they're at. And I think the really interesting and really cool thing about Grow is that we will do what we can do as far as offer the resources, or if there's a lending opportunity, we're happy to do that. But then we can also make connections to the other organizations in the community. So I still stand by that. If we're at the idea phase or we're just about to launch a business, but maybe need a little bit more assistance, that'd be a great time to reach out to Grow. But I also know that we work with a number of entrepreneurs and small business owners who have been in business for a few years, but they want to expand and they want to do something a little bit more, but they still need that capital. So really depending on what the small business and entrepreneurs needs are, that's really, I guess, what dictates a little bit of what resources you'll look for from Grow. But I think as far as that initial contact and that initial reach out, I would still just say if there's any piece of you or any piece of you as an entrepreneur that is looking for assistance as a small business owner, we would be happy to field that question. And maybe we have the resource here, but otherwise we're always happy to make connections to other organizations that you've even mentioned as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And, I think just kind of in wrapping up some of this conversation too, we know in the same way that there are a number of economic support organizations across West Michigan, across Michigan. Each of our organizations is one of those and has access to help connect folks to other economic support organizations. We want to be a part of this network that jointly supports our entrepreneurs and our small businesses, our local businesses here in this area. So, one of the pieces that just want to get a highlight from before we can wrap this up are what really makes Grow unique in the economic support organization ecosystem. And yeah, just share kind of what makes you guys unique in that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that question. And I think you might be tired of me saying these letters, but I think the fact that we are a CDFI, that is really a unique piece of who we are as an organization and who we are as a support in West Michigan. So I have to say that's probably what really makes us unique and makes us stand out the most as a small business resource. But I think also for anyone who has interacted with Grow, and we'll say it, I sometimes joke, maybe we need shirts that say this, but we're a small but mighty team. There are not many of us, but we are very focused on relationships and being, as I've said, we might not have it all. We might not have all the answers, but being that trusted source for business owners and being available with resources, with funding opportunities. I think that's really kind of what stands out to me and what I would say, what makes Grow. I think those are kind of the pieces specifically that I would probably say. But okay, tell me, what about you? We've heard about People First Economy. We've heard about Good for Michigan. We've heard about Local First. But really, what's the meat and potatoes? Tell us what makes you you.
Yeah, man, now that we're highlighting unique, I want to say that these kind of amplify and iterate some of the similar points that you've raised, but are true to who we are as well. We often use that small but mighty lens to talk about our team and kind of our collaborative approaches. So we are a smaller team that really wants to amplify these two different program areas to create a people first economy. And in that, we really value our people, our sense of place, and our collaborative approach. So as an example, we just had an opportunity to connect with businesses in Marquette. And so had an opportunity just to hear what makes their community unique, what kind of resources they uniquely are looking for. And we love an opportunity to do some of that listening and to help respond in ways that are really appropriate for communities. And then for our team to play in Michigan, which is just beautiful. So opportunities for us to do some of that. We are a small but mighty team wanting to provide some of this resource and doing that in good faith to connect folks to different areas and make sure that we are just appropriately holding up our local business, place-based business communities. So those are a few pieces in the same vein of definitely echoing some of those pieces that you have shared, Rosie, but also feel like those are kind of standouts from our team. And I would just add briefly to that, and Emmanuel, if you have other pieces too, please add in. But another thing that we just love about our work are some connections to national partners and resources. So particularly when we're talking about localism, that might sound counterintuitive, but we are a part of some of these national movements that really bring unique things to our communities to help our communities be robust. On the Local First side, that is communities like Common Futures, Bali, the American Independent Business Alliance, places that are helping lead national conversations around localism that allow us to kind of talk about things at a a macro, meso, and kind of micro level. So getting it really deep and ingrained into our local business communities. And Emmanuel already mentioned on the Good for Michigan side, connections with B Lab, who are folks who are creating some of these movements. And then we are able to amplify that within our local business spaces, and being a B local, kind of the connector, B Corps here in Michigan, places that we can bring some of that and encourage and amplify the practices existing here. Those things stick out to me. Anything you would add, Emmanuel?
Yeah, I would just want to reiterate that some of the work that we do isn't just because like we the thought of it, it's what other places are also doing, and they're like good for those communities, and we also want to replicate that here. So just being connected to those larger movements of localism and responsible business practices. I think that's like a really unique part of our organizations. And I don't know if this is unique to our organization, but like our team is pretty passionate about building a people first economy, building a more sustainable and resilient economy that centers vulnerable communities and uplifts the value of the environment and of people, essentially. I think we're all pretty committed to that. And I don't know if that's unique to us, but it feels like having those passions combined with our work, we can do a lot. And it seems like we are doing a lot, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, I think it's a fun part of being on this team in particular. And, in working with you, Rosie, and the Grow team, certainly see that echoed in your space as well, like this passion of working with, for instance, yourself and Kelly, who I think is on the lending team, and folks who have been in that network for a long period of time. I think folks stay when the work is exciting, and we genuinely enjoy connecting with businesses. And so, yeah, echo that, Emmanuel. I think that is one of the reasons I personally love being on the team, and I see that too in the work that you're doing at Grow as well. That's awesome.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's a really good point. And I appreciate you bringing that up, Emmanuel, because I think it's true. It's like you said too, Kathleen, it's like when people are excited and energized and are passionate about making the difference in our community through business ownership and through sustainable and responsible business ownership too, I think, the sky's the limit. I think that's just how do we put together the resources? And I think this type of conversation, just highlighting what different organizations in our community do and what value they can bring to this community is so powerful. So I just wanted to thank both of you and just let you know how much we at Grow appreciate being a part of these conversations. And I just wanted to share that if folks are interested, kind of the next steps would be just to visit our website, growbusiness.org. We are back in our physical space, as I said, here in Grand Rapids, but still being mindful of not gathering too many of us at one time. So I would say the website and email is probably the perfect place to start right now, and then kind of moving through next steps from there.
Yeah, perfect. Well, we will share out this recording, this opportunity for folks to get engaged, the ways in which folks can tap into your website and your network. I think in the vein that we both have already talked about social media too, we will post this in the Local First blog, Grow, and our Local First channel. We'll also be sharing this out through social and pieces like that. So we'll make sure that it is accessible. You have access to some of the links and information that we have shared. And just want to thank you, Rosie, for this conversation too. It's awesome to be able to connect with the networks here in West Michigan and just amplify what we're already doing. So thank you for the time in the space and all of the really great, robust information.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I echo my thanks to you guys and look forward to continuing these partnerships and these conversations. So thank you.
All right. Well, thanks for folks for joining, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.